what any other 24-year-old would do. At least I thought that was the case. I asked for her job, and they actually gave it to me.
Mm.
And, it spent 6 years, probably making a lot of mistakes. And when I wrote the book Suddenly in Charge, I did that because I didn't want anyone else to go through or be subject to a boss like I probably was. And so over the years, obviously matured, grew into my leadership roles, having worked in many different corporate environments, and then made the decision 25 years ago that I could help a lot more people if I started my own practice.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's, my third uh book, which was Leadership is 10 Principles of Success for the First Time Manager. I wrote that book almost exactly for the same reason, that not so much as me volunteering, for a leadership position. Essentially, I did, but I was kind of thrown into a leadership position with no mentoring and no coaching. And, of course, there are several mistakes that I made in that as well. And so, and I wrote a book to kind of help, some of those who are, as you call it so eloquently, suddenly in charge,
Mhm.
to navigate through that learning curve. So I'm so thankful for people like you and the insight that you have. Now, in your book here, you talk about suddenly in charge. You talk about, managing up or managing your boss. What does that mean? Like, how does a person do that? Gotta share that with us, please, if you don't mind.
Well, they have to buy the book.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
I'll give you the book Suddenly in Charge, because the book is on managing up, managing down, succeeding all around. So if your listeners are, today thinking, well, I'm not a manager, I don't need this book, just read the other half, okay?
yeah.
Because what you really need to do is manage your boss so that you can get the resources you need so that your team can be successful. And, that could be starting out to figure out decoding what kind of boss that you have. Bosses come in all different shapes and sizes and approaches to leadership. Some bosses like to know all the details, and then there are others that just want the facts. And if you start, funneling in lots and lots of facts to a boss who just wants to know the bottom line, you're going to find that that's going to be very frustrating for the boss as well as for you. So really trying to figure out what kind of boss that you have, and then looking at ways that you can make their life easier so that you're looked upon more favorably. And, it's not about scoring brownie points. It's just doing a great job of managing your boss, again, so that when you ask for things for your team, your boss is very agreeable and says, yes, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that's awesome. That's so tell us something. What is your actual definition of leadership?
Well, I don't know if I have a particular definition. I think it's sometimes one of those things like I'll know it when I see it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times I look at things and I'm like, wow, that is not leadership as opposed to strong leadership. But there are many examples of great leaders, and we see them every day. Although sometimes we have blinders on because we come across so many poor leaders. So, those are people who are moving the organization forward, right? They're moving their teams forward. They're investing in their team's development. They're people who are more concerned about how their people are being treated than how they're being treated. I mean, those are some signs to me of great leaders. And then they're also, as I wrote in the book, The Magnetic Leader, great leaders are very authentic. You know what you get all the time, and they're also very transparent. You never have to say, well, really, is that what they meant, or
Ah,
are they just giving me the corporate line?
right, right, right. Yeah, that's excellent. So we're gonna come back. We're gonna revisit, the suddenly in charge. That's the subject for today. Keys for new leaders to succeed. However, I want to dip into your can we talk? Want to go into that a little bit. So what is that book, really? Okay, common sense would kind of tell me what it's about, and anyone just looking at the title. But I really want to dive into your mind and explore what is the benefit of Can We Talk in a corporate, even nonprofit environment. What is behind Can We Talk?
Well, many of us put off these difficult conversations, and we do so because, we're either conflict avoidant, or we really just don't know how to start these conversations, or we're concerned about, how somebody may react. And when I wrote this book, whenever you write a commercially published book, you have to put together a competitive analysis, and you have to look at other books out there that might be in your lane, so to speak. And what I found most interesting as I was doing my research is that I really couldn't find any books on difficult conversations that covered not just, oh, you're a boss and you have to have this difficult conversation with one of your people. I couldn't find anything that covered, oh, you have to have a difficult conversation with your boss, or you have to have one of these challenging conversations with a peer. And so what I have done in this book that really sets the book apart from other books out there is to make sure that my readers are able to get the scripts and get the information that they need to have these healthy conversations up, down, and across the organization.
Yeah. That's so. Does it also explore you know, the peer to peer, kind of conversations that have to be held as well? And what I'm thinking of in terms of, how to, how to, how to clean a toxic culture, in other words. And so, yeah, how does that book, address that issue?
Well, it definitely has a lot of pragmatic tips on how to have these difficult conversations with your peers. But you and I have talked offline about toxic cultures, and as sad as it is to think, I said to you in one of our interactions, it's really not your job to fix a toxic culture. Cultures are a shared set of beliefs, and culture is formed at the top. And unless you are the CEO, or maybe even one of the people on the senior executive team, you have very little influence over the culture in the organization. Now, that being said, companies also have what we call subcultures. And that might explain why, if you go on to like Glassdoor and you're reading all these glowing reviews about a company, and those people you all of a sudden see are all working in sales, and then you look at reviews that aren't so favorable and like people are crying basically, and maybe those people are working in customer service. Like, it could be two different cultures within a culture. And so as a leader, you certainly have the ability to influence how how people will feel in your part of the organization. But you're not going to be able to fix the quote unquote toxic work environment that is all too common in many companies.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Understood. So, all right. So how do you, okay. So what is leadership's then responsibility as it relates to, the culture? Like, how does a culture become toxic? If the leader is present, or maybe it's because the leader isn't present, but
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. The leader isn't present, or the leader is conflict avoidant, or the leader isn't willing to make tough decisions like, hey, we got one bad apple here, and this person is spreading gloom and doom throughout. But they're my top salesperson, so I'm not gonna remove them. Or there's so many steps in the organization, maybe all these steps that you have to take in order to release an employee, that the manager says, you know what, it's not worth it. I'll never get through these steps. So
mm,
it's about avoiding these tough conversations, right? Because
yeah,
they could go to their boss and say, we need to fix these practices. It's ridiculous that it takes us